Harry, some people might say, has literally zero respect for his father, the King, King Charles III, or indeed his brother, the Prince of Wales, Prince William. But this particular latest antic, all thanks, of course, to the international services of the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, well, just tells you everything about where his mindset is, and more importantly, what he truly thinks. As ever, let me explain. Morning, chums. Lovely to see you. Thank you so much for your time today. It's a funny thing, isn't it? The BBC thing, when you break it down even further, you do kind of think, Harry, you should have listened to the people around you and stayed away from the microphone. What you found was the smirking, sneering, sort of snivelling things that he was chucking around about how now he wouldn't want to come back to England and how he never thinks that he could bring his children over here. And then, as we've seen, there's this sort of guy banging on people's doors, totally unaided. And actually, when you think about it, let's be honest here, chums. Think about it. If you were going to do that, wouldn't you dress out of the suit? Wouldn't you say maybe wear something a little low-key, like a baseball hat, or like he's just been seen in the Beyonce thing, a ridiculous cowboy hat? You wanted attention. You were paraded up and down. And if you look at the street footage, and I've seen it, he did nothing to hide the fact that he was there. It seems to me that he craves the limelight as much as his wife, Meghan Markle. Clearly, they can't stop it. You know what I mean? I mean, it's quite tragic, really. But here's the thing where it gets really interesting, because obviously with Prince Harry, the BBC have been blasted for the fact that they never ever counteracted in any questions regarding what he was saying about the establishment and how people were against him and his wife, etc. The sort of thing. We know it, right? But where this is fascinating is the BBC, and I've spoken to a person that I know very well, literally in the head of news, and they were saying that, it was very much a stipulation that he wasn't going to say anything like that. And at the end of the interview, he didn't want either to allow it out or sign the release paper. And this is the final form, and this happens to whether you're Harry or not, and you have the release paper, you have a copy of it, Harry, right? Well, if you don't sign it, they can't release it. You see, because obviously he can say, well, I never agreed to that bit, or I wanted this bit edited out, or I didn't really agree with that on reflection. But he signed the form, they have the form, right? So they are totally in the clear. It's all very well, and me, I say as I find, I attack the BBC as well, but you can't attack the BBC when Harry literally did this, because basically it's normal sort of common courtesy for any person who is delivering a story, and particularly of that level, about the royals, that you would put a call into the Buckingham Palace press office and alert them. You remember a while back when Harry and Meghan did that disastrous docu and they slagged off, the entire sort of British monarchy. Well, the bottom line about that is, that Netflix had never bothered to call. Now, that's because, they claimed they didn't know where to call. It's very easy to find the press office, right? But where this gets really interesting is that, according to that source, Prince Harry basically said, please don't bother with that. I just want it to go out. He didn't want, say, whichever way you look at it, and as ever, I have to say allegedly, but his father, the King, his brother, the Prince of Wales, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, senior members of the monarchy, to know in advance the fact that he sat down and done this particular interview, or partaken in it, whichever way you want to look at it. He wanted it to be a shock to them on that Friday afternoon, to throw a, as the people say, blindsided them, really. So the palace staff would have been winding down for the weekend, the press office team, and then that literally gets the maximum effect. Now, the BBC, you could have said, well, it could have just simply bypassed that. But because of the disclaimer form that Harry signed, they're not technically allowed to do so. Personally, I might have broken over that. But whichever way you look at it, what you now can look at is the fact that Harry wanted to cause the maximum impact. Some people might say damage to his father by releasing this particular video at that particular point, fully signing over all rights to the BBC to make sure that it literally was picked up and used in bulletins and all of those sort of agreements around the world. According to that source also, finally, Harry was asking the question, do you think this will make the lead news item on the news channels that night? And they said, well, very probably, unless, of course, something happens. And as you know, as I told you, he very much wanted to wipe off the success of a political party over here in the United Kingdom that had done exceptionally well in the regional elections. So when they say we don't know what's going on in the world, and I'm totally, away from social media, Harry and Meghan are watching like hawks. And quite frankly, the BBC and Harry should have a serious rethink about exactly how they're conducting their media relations. Other people might put it a bit stronger. Anybody else agree? Neil Sean, Kensington, London.